Oh, take. Sweet.
There you go.
I love it. Hello, everyone. Welcome to What Does It Mean with Jolene. And I have with us today CJ Levy, who is the video director for the Dark Side video, as well as the upcoming videos for the other two songs on Hemispheres South, called 1,000 Times and Devil. And we're just here to talk about our creative process and inspiration. And I'll let you jump in, CJ.
Yeah. I'm honored to talk about what it is that we do, because for me, it's just so much fun. And I think that your music in particular, it gives me a license to think outside of that normal box, right? So I do a lot of documentary video
because
production.
we burned down the box in the first video. We
literally burned it
made
down.
Save Moon and we burned down the box, and now the box is burned down, so we can do whatever we want to.
I was like, hey, what do you want to do? And you're like, let's burn down the box. Like, oh, cool, let's do it. With real fire though. Yay. So, and we did it and it worked and nobody got hurt. So yeah, that was successful. I love that video. I mean, our work together is some of my favorite work because it is just so removed from, the day-to-day black and white society. And that's so important because I think we all have to be in tune with what's going on in kind of our own spiritual realm, whatever that means to us. And I feel like that's where this music and that's where that art goes. And I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately I make spiritual music. It's all, and psychological. It's all sort of this journey of psyche and spirit and exploring different places and in that inner realm, in the dream world.
So Dark Side for me, and really, like, I think the whole Jolene chapter of your musical career it was exciting for me because it gave me license to do things I wouldn't normally do, go to creative places that I wouldn't normally think of. Literally, it was, how can we express raw feeling, emotion, or concepts, and do it in a way that's like not super well planned out, but that felt more pure in a way, right?
That was so fun of this with this project that we because we initially were going to just do the one video for Devil, right? And we had and you came back to me with the whole script and everything for it, and I was like, let's not do a script, let's just let it be more free form and open. And I love that we did that. And then we ended up making 3 videos that weekend because we did it that way, and we didn't try to plan everything out and be so like systematic about everything. We just let it flow and be what it was, and got really creative and fun.
Yeah, I agree. I think over planning sometimes can be the enemy. I think over planning can be the enemy of true artistic expression on occasion. And yeah, we threw that out the window, and we decided whatever that we were feeling at the time we would do, essentially. And see what would happen. And maybe we would end up with no videos that were usable, but maybe we would end up with 3. And I think we ended up with 3.
And what was so interesting to me was that you had this idea that you wanted like me to be upside down on the inversion table, and I was like, really? Like, I don't know. I don't know about this idea. And it ended up being so cool. I mean, we just kind of tried it on a what the hell? Let's give it a shot. Let's see what happens, and throw some lasers and fog at it.
Exactly.
And I feel like it turned out so interesting and engaging to watch, and it was a fun challenge for me, just as a human and an expressive creative, making that feel natural and just trying to act the role of being someone who lives upside down in that space, and just being totally comfortable there. That was a fun thing for me. But I also, I'm curious what inspired you for that song specifically to be like, let's do that upside down.
So for me, it was a couple of things, right? So one is, opposing gravity, right? So we all, I'm thankful for gravity. Gravity's great. Gravity is one of those laws of physics that, you know, makes it all possible. But also, like, just that idea of being held down, I think humanity has always fought against. Like, how can I fly? How can I defy these rules? How can I defy this existence or reality that I have been born into? And I think that for me, this idea of upside down is really interesting because, well, it's been manifested in other art in a neat way as well. So there was a music video called well, it's the Beatles song Across the Universe, but it was the
Oh yeah.
Fiona Apple cover of that song, um, for a Tobey Maguire movie. And I think it was Pleasantville. And so that video, though, um, she literally does this spin where she starts vertical, and her whole, like, you follow with her. So like
Mm-hmm.
you're on the journey with her, and so the camera's doing this, and so you go completely upside down. And as she's opposing gravity, uh, you see the dynamic totally shift, and you see her kind of like having to express in a new way. And so I thought, well, you know, just opposing gravity in general is having to express in a new way. So that would be, in my mind, like a fun video. We didn't
Mm-hmm.
cheat. We didn't just like impose to spin the frame around. We actually
No.
put you upside down.
Yeah, yeah, and it's interesting. Well, first, I just want to comment that whenever I was kind of showing friends about the video, I kind of was observing their reactions, and people would kind of be like start to try to turn upside down with it, because it does have this sort of disorienting feel about it that takes you into this sort of strange headspace that it's
Right.
fun to watch people react to it.
Well, yeah, there's probably a whole blood
But
flow component to that too.
but yeah, I mean,
Biologically.
um, yeah, the blood flow to the head is interesting too.
Potentially dangerous
We
for
didn't do
too
it.
long.
We didn't too long. Yeah, but then also actually, I think it's interesting that there's also the sort of Stranger Things concept of entering the
Yeah,
upside down, and that's kind of what the whole Jolene uh, journey is. This going into
right.
hemispheres, we're going into the dream, we're going into this other level of reality that exists, in this sort of
Yeah.
subconscious dream space, and that's the upside down, and there we are, we're going there, we're entering it, it's disorienting, it's strange and weird.
Yeah. But beautiful also,
Yeah.
which is the thing. So that's exactly right. So like we get to create in a universe that's not quite this universe, from a narrative perspective, and that's a lot of fun, and that opens up a lot of possibilities, which I think that, you know, those are possibilities that were fully utilized on, you know, on videos for Dark Side, Devil, and Thousand Times, all three
Yeah,
in 2 days, in a 2 day span.
I'm so impressed that you did that, facilitated that, and
Well,
really.
it's a team effort. It's we.
But I would have only gone for one video, and I'm really happy that we ended up just sort of having a creative spree and just going for it. And it was a really interesting style of creativity on these videos that sort of has continued to translate into a lot of the rest of the project for me, where we just kind of visioned, okay, what would be a really interesting and beautiful visual that represents this song that's just one thing. We're just
Yeah,
doing one thing. We're keeping the vision really streamlined and
yeah,
straightforward, and having this, we're going to have a clarity about it. Like literally on the Dark Side video, it's just being upside down, singing, and
yeah,
feeling the song the whole time. That's what the video is. And it takes you into that space and just
yeah,
puts you there. And we did kind of a similar thing with the other two
yeah,
videos, and that has been so integral to being able to build a story around it too, with what I'm doing with this whole interactive story universe, is having a little pinpoint to
Yeah.
theme the story around that isn't too complicated. It's not trying to do too many things. It's just one thing that makes a beautiful statement that then I can be like, well, what's happening in the story here? It's
Yeah.
it's it's fun because, and literally that's how it happened. It wasn't that I had this story and then we tried to make a visual that fit into the story. It
Yeah.
was the song told what the visual was going to be, and then the visual informed the story.
Yeah. And to your credit, like I just want to give you a little credit to fans who care about this sort of thing. There wasn't a ton of pre-planning. It was artistic expression in real time. The video for Dark Side, for example, was 2 cameras but 1 take. So it was done essentially in real time. And I even offered, like I said, do you want another take? And you said, well, were you recording? Essentially, were you recording? Like, yeah, like I think we're good. Let's go to the next, let's do the next video. And I think that's
Yeah.
really a testament to that kind of pure artistic expression that other artists probably don't exhibit on a regular basis, that I was really honored to be a part of with you, and that you had courage, you were courageous, and you wanted to do these things and get them in the can and move on. And I thought that was really fun and cool and a neat challenge for me. So yeah, it was a fun process, and it was kind of a pure creative process.
Yeah, and I think literally what happened after we did that take, I think we did 2 takes of Dark Side and just ran it
Okay.
through. First take was a test, and then the second one was like, okay, this is the
Yeah,
one.
the
Okay,
real one, the real
we're
deal.
good. And then we got done with that, and I turned back right side up, and we're like, okay, well now I guess we should listen to the next song and think about what the video should be for it. And
Yeah.
that's just exactly how it happened. Is we just listened to the next song, um and then I was like, okay, well, how about I'd paint myself. Do you have
Well,
any
yeah.
black paint?
Yeah, and I did. Of course
and
I did.
and not just black paint, but it turned into this whole just fun creative expression that you brought out all the different black slime paint things that you had to work with, and we just played.
Yeah, that was fun for me because it was like it turned into, and again, like not a lot of pre-planning went into it, but it turned into like a little bit of tribal war paint, almost like demonic possession a la Venom kind of thing. But it really did play with a lot of themes that I think are just like overall true to humanity, in that there's a lot that we all are dealing with beneath the surface. And the video kind of manifests what that looks like externally, in a really fun, creative way. And you had so much fun with it, I should add, because, like anytime you have a license to just like paint yourself, or
Yeah.
like that's kind of fun, right? That was fun for you anyway.
And I think that, there's something about when that you're only going to have one shot at doing something. Like, okay, once I've painted myself, that's it. I'm painted. We're not going to do it again.
Right.
Because it took 2 hours to scrub it all
You can't
off.
clean that up. You can't clean that up. No.
So there's wow, I better really get in this moment kind of pressure. It's not pressure, exactly. It doesn't feel like pressure. It's just like, okay, let's do this. It's
Yeah.
let's be alive
Let's be alive. Yeah.
thing that you probably wouldn't get if you had plenty of takes to do it with.
Right.
So that
Yeah.
was fun.
We're all spoiled, right, with hard drive space and 1 terabyte SD cards or whatever. Like, I feel like you can do infinite takes, which by the way, for Devil, we did more takes. Like, there was one video that we did a lot of takes on, and there were 2 videos that we did very few takes with. And they're all 3, in my mind, like really special videos that turned out really well in their own unique ways. And I don't regret doing any of them in the fashion that we did them. I think they all were, but not, I guess none of the 3 though were like so like super planned out that we couldn't have fun with it. And I think that this was as opposed to Same Moon, which was a very calculated, scripted,
Yeah.
necessarily so kind of shoot, these all 3 were let's go express ourselves and see what happens. And I just really appreciate the change up for that. Like, it was fun.
Yeah, which there's a place for both types. And
Yeah.
I'm really happy with how the Same Moon video turned out, and it really became kind of central to the
Yeah.
story too. But
Yeah.
this just felt right for this, especially for this part of the world and what we're saying with this whole dream journey and going into the upside down, going into the underneath,
Yeah.
the sort of subconscious dreamy kind of world. That type of just letting the expression flow and just be what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Same Moon for me was a 3-day stress attack. Like, so stressful. But that's because, again, like, there were safety, like, anytime you're really genuinely concerned about harming another human being because of a stunt you want to pull off, or like some set design, I think that's a big deal. But also there were so many effects that we had to pull off in a kind of like exact way for it to work out. Everything else that we've done has been a lot less stressful. So in the future, I would say that I will approach either project equally, depending on what your vision is. So let's make more,
It's
and whatever that is, let's figure it out.
it's really interesting actually to me that in our approaches to these videos, it sort of naturally, the creative approaches ended up matching kind of the character of the place in the world. The North is this human achievement and struggle and climbing toward greatness, right?
Yeah.
And if you're formulating a hypothesis of what's going on in the North and what the North is, then uh, it's this hyper advanced civilization where
Right.
they and everything fell apart. And here we are now in this sort of underworld dream realm, our human shadow in the Jungian way, where we're going into our subconscious and analyzing it and breaking everything down,
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah.
And so that, it just in thinking about the psyche and the way that humans work, that it is very much this sort of, I don't know about you, but I constantly feel this sort of like odds with myself about the
Yeah.
working hard towards something and pushing, going, like doing the
Yeah.
practical things, and then also just sort of like letting go and letting the space be what it is and letting things flow.
Yeah.
And there definitely has to be a balance in the universe between those things. You can't just completely let everything go, but you also can't it I find myself like getting caught up in those loops where I'm stressing out about every little detail in Same Moon 3-day
Yeah.
style.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that sometimes can create really magical things when you do like
Yeah.
let yourself get really, go on something. Sometimes
Yeah.
it can yield really cool results, but then also there's this other kind of magic that happens when you just sort of let go and be whatever it is.
Absolutely. And I found that to be true in documentary filmmaking as well. If you embrace the universe and you flow with it, things go infinitely better. And by the end of the day, you typically always have like some like true cinematic gold. Like, if you just go with the flow of the universe, you
Yeah.
typically have something that you really love about that project at the end of the day that was kind of bestowed upon you by the universe, that was unplanned. And I think that the same can be true on a creative level when you're doing stuff that's outside of, just like normal daily observation. Like when you're trying to create on a level that's just in tune with, some, I don't know, I guess, right? When you create, it's fictional for you, but it's based in real stuff too, right? Like it's always based in stuff that's inside of us. So it's fictional, it's
Well,
not real, but
yeah.
it's based on real things.
Well, I guess it depends on what you define as real, right?
Things
Um,
that we
and
feel are real, though.
it's really easy to get in the weeds on this because I
Uh,
think everyone thinks about truth
yeah,
and real as in different ways, um, and Neil Gaiman is arguably, I think, one of the better writers of our time and has some really wonderful things to say about creativity. And he has this one quote that's um, a lot of people think that things that happen in fiction don't happen in real life. Those people are wrong.
right.
And uh, I, who is it? Also, I think I was listening to Margaret Atwood the other day, and she was talking about everything that she puts in her stories. They happened in real life in some way, right? She fictionalized it, but she you want the story to be believable,
Yeah,
and you don't. I mean, you can't make anything up completely that never existed. It's the same way that they say that you don't actually ever encounter anyone in your dreams that you haven't run across sometime in real life before. It's story is another level of reality, and
right,
some would say that it's truer than material reality. I tend
right.
to I tend to think that it's
Mhm,
how it's the level of reality at which we ascribe meaning
mhm.
and value to things in our lives.
Yeah,
And um and the stories that we tell ourselves, uh that's extremely powerful. That's a lot more powerful than anything in physical reality.
I think I agree with that because I think that um, life is deception. Like life, social life and or just like daily life is a million different deceptions because we're all because of expectations, right? It's literally deception based on expectation, which is not necessarily evil, but it's not necessarily pure truth or expression in a way that is from the heart. And so I think sometimes creation and expression that is from the heart is more honest, right? So I totally agree with all of that. Um, and that said, like, yes, there are societal, like, necessary lies, but I do think that it's important for every person to have like that kind of release where they just allow themselves to be a part of a narrative storytelling based, pure expression based thing, whether that for them is paintings or artwork in a gallery or music or film or whatever that is. Like pure human expression is so important, and art is so important, I think, for a good healthy mental balance. And I would
I
say that the yeah,
Yes, humans are inherently creative beings. And if I think that if you're not doing something creative in your life, and it in any medium, like you're saying, it
absolutely.
can be it can be software engineering, coding, and that, like, I've done that kind of stuff too, where it
Yeah,
requires a lot of creative energy and power to think about what it is that you're making and then write the code for it, break it down into all the little steps, and that can be a creative endeavor in itself that people don't necessarily think about. It's not really art in the traditional sense, but anytime you're thinking of something that doesn't exist
yeah,
and then kind of bringing it back into the physical world.
yes.
but
So
but
like,
I mean, arguably, whether or not it exists or not, right? It just doesn't
yeah.
exist in this plane, and so that kind of comes back to the same thing that we were
Oh
just
yeah,
talking about that what's real, what's
yeah,
true. And I tend to think that any time that I'm creating anything, it already existed. I'm just sort of finding it. It's kind of an idea that happened to come across
sure.
my radar, and so I can capture it and then
Yeah,
try to do my best to bring it back.
yeah. I mean, I happen to think that we're all connected with all the same info and the same building blocks, but so if that belief were true, which is what I maybe think is true, then we're all kind of like dipping into the same pool. essentially. And that's maybe why we all respond similarly to stories, and it's why we all cry at the same like emotional cues in films or TV shows. Like we're all connected in a very, very real way, like science-based and spiritual and otherwise. And I think that acknowledging that connection is kind of what art is all about. And I
Yeah.
love it and I'm thankful for it. And if I didn't have it, I would be dead. Like I think a lot of people could say that. Like without art, without expression, without consumption of art, we would not be able to deal with the pandemics and the isolation and all the other things that life throws at us.
Yeah.
So God bless you and God bless art. Yeah, and you know,
Likewise. Yeah.
yeah, for viewers, like I respect whatever that God is to you, but like in reality, I think that a lot of folks acknowledge, like, you know what, we don't have all the answers. So there's more than us, and there's more than the answers that we currently have. And there's something greater going on. And I just love the idea that art is maybe one of those threads that binds us all together.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to me, art. Now that you're bringing God into this, and
Sure,
maybe she, what was in it the whole
exactly.
time, right? And that's to me, art is very sacred. It is this. It's tapping into this greater knowing, this deep, divine, uh, underlying consciousness that it seems to know much more than I do,
Exactly.
and 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 sort of like giving yourself over to that and receiving from it. To me, that is what a lot of religions are attempting to describe, that
Hmm.
we don't always do a great job of understanding it or translating it. But to me, you know, it's this deep creative force that is underlying everything that connects everyone, and
It's a
that's
truth,
what
right?
you're
Like,
getting at, right?
yeah,
It's this thing that it's this primordial force
it's
that
the automatic. It's the automatic, like it just is, right? Like that's kind of what I think. Like we have this connection that just exists, whether we attempt to have it or not.
whether we want to label that God, or if we want to call it the universe, the great consciousness,
Exactly.
I think that it doesn't matter what you call it.
Right.
We have it, and
Yes. We
it
really,
connects
we
us
do,
and it
we,
helps us. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, we don't have to alienate anyone. Like literally like what we're talking about does not require alienation, which is great. Like everyone's included in this party. Like this is for every human
Mhm.
being who feels, I think is the truth, right?
Yeah, and well, and if you don't feel, I hope that it helps you, or it makes you feel something. That's the idea, right?
Yeah. 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 I think we all tear up at certain sites or at certain points, like I said, in a story, because we all do share some connection. There's a reason that in Hollywood, cinematic formula has existed and succeeded so well for, you know, century plus, right? And that is because the formula is based on what human beings all have in common. And that is that we are all like we all root for a protagonist. We all want to see an antagonist overcome. We all want to see a character arc and someone being bettered. These are the reason that this works so well in Hollywood formula, whether you're Democrat, Republican, Christian, atheist, whatever, is because that's a human connection. That's a human formula that works for everyone.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. It
Yeah.
um it seems like in we even learn about it in school and everything. There's one sort of central underlying story that everyone's trying to tell in a different way, but
Yeah.
we all relate to it in different ways, but there's something that we're all trying to connect to and reach as humans. It's like the great story, and that's a lot of what inspires me in this story and story writing, is looking at stories of old every ancient story that's ever been told, the oldest, and also what people love and resonate with now, and sort of combining it all into what is this great story, and how can I try to tell it in maybe in a way that's just inspiring and hasn't been quite done that way before.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I know.
stories are
Yeah.
inspiring. It's stories and song and music. It's this great, it connects us.
Yeah. The reason I love Same Moon as a concept is that Same Moon connects everyone narratively to a simple point of light in the sky, right? Like that's pretty cool. And I love that idea that we all have the same view at night. We were all looking at the same moon. Regardless of our differences or difference in location or different places in our lives. I think that is such a beautiful truth. And sometimes truth is all we have. So this is why this party is open to atheists or Christians or Catholics or Muslims. Like this party is open for everyone because there are universal truths and there are things that connect us all as humans. And I think that that's a beautiful thing. I think that when we can really disregard all differences and say that we have connection in common, hopefully that's the thing that kind of overwhelms the future of humanity. Like maybe that's the thing that ultimately brings us together and allows us to just coexist peacefully. That would be real nice. Art probably does play a role in that. I think art does play a role in the future of hopefully peaceful humanity.
I think if we listened more closely to beings like the moon, I think we've gotten, there's so much light pollution, we've gotten so detached from nature and these forces that the moon has just stayed there. She's like steadfast over who knows how long, right? And while humans go to wars and rise and fall, the moon just stays there peaceful and keeps doing her thing. And that's inspiring to me. As a human, like to be more like the moon. Let everything rise and fall as it will, but just remaining steadfast in the cycles. And I love that.
Yes, because the truth is nature, the truth is the universe. Like that's the truth. What exists beyond us is the truth. So when we become so self-interested, I think that is when the problems arise.
Looking looking outside and also knowing that your outside is a reflection. It's the same thing. The inside is the outside, and so whatever you're focusing on, it will create more of in the universe. Anyway, this turned into a very
I love it.
Philosophical.
I love getting all the way in the weeds, especially with you, because you're someone who's willing to go there, so that's great. I love that your music and your art has so much meaning to you, and I try to shy away from art that maybe is more commercial based and has less meaning. So you're someone who I always admire and gravitate toward.
Well, thank you. I really enjoyed working on these videos with you, and I felt like it was such a fun, organic, creative process that we were able to play and have fun, and it felt really true to these songs. And it's exciting to me that the videos that we created together then informed the story and just helped the whole thing blossom.
Yeah, and everyone's gonna love Devil when they see it. It's gonna be great.
So I think so. Yeah.
It's been like a tiny bit delayed in post-production, but it's coming and it's great. You did a great job.
I can't wait to see it, to be honest.
Yeah, it's my favorite.
Yeah.
So, I love to keep surprises. So
Yeah.
Coming Christmas 2024. The video for Devil. I'm just kidding. Joke.
Yeah.
In closing, I would just like to say thank you for allowing me to be a part of this conversation, and for allowing me a part in creation of your videos. I think that working with your music is always an honor, and I hope that we get to do more.
Likewise, CJ, thank you so much for jumping on this call with me and having this conversation. And yay, I can't wait to share a little conversation with the world.